What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another Whitetail DNA vlog. Today's gonna be a pretty cool video. I'm gonna be going around my office where I've got all my mounts and kind of just talking about them and kind of just storytelling and telling the stories of them, and also kind of just explaining to you why I find mounts so important and why each mount is just a memory for me. And I just kind of want to explain why I love mounts so much and why they're not just a trophy on the wall, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. So with that, let's get into today's video. Alright, so the first deer that I want to talk to you about is this buck back here. This was my very first buck that I ever shot, and really cool story. And this deer just sticks in my mind so much because it kind of was a really big point in my hunting life, if you want to call it my hunting career. I was 15 years old, and I was up at deer camp and I was rifle hunting, and I really wanted to stay hunting for one more day because it was Sunday, it was time to go home, go back to school. Well, I was able to convince my parents to let me stay at deer camp one more day. And it was the very first time, actually, believe it or not, at age 15 that I'd ever gone to a stand by myself in the dark. And I was definitely a little scared that morning. I had to four-wheel miles back in the woods by myself. And it might not seem like anything, but for me at that time of my age, I was 15 and never done it before. And just finding that stand that I'd never been to was definitely a little frightening for me, but I was able to do it. That morning as the sun came up, there was deer just moving through everywhere. I had a little 8-pointer come by I couldn't get a shot at. And I was just trying to shoot a buck at that point. And this buck was able to come by at about 20 yards, and I shot him with my rifle. And I got down, couldn't find any blood. And long story short, we ended up going back to camp, coming back with reinforcements, and we were able to find him. And it was just it was such a big relief to me. It was that first buck, and I was so excited. And that really just kind of catapulted me into deer hunting and to really where I'm at today. And I attributed that a lot to deer camp and to this buck right here. So definitely a really cool mount and a really cool memory that every time I look at it, I can just go back to. The next buck that I want to talk about is this one right over here that I've got. This deer was my first really big buck. He's a 12-pointer. He scores pretty well. And I shot this buck in 2013 with my bow. And this buck, I had hunted that year like 65, 70 days. And I'd gotten one trail camera photo of this buck on November 1st of 2013. And then I hunted that stand every time that I could. I actually sat that stand, I think, 25 or 27 sits in a row, which goes against everything I know about deer hunting now. But all I knew is I wanted to shoot that deer really bad. And I happened to be going to basic training that year when I was 18 and joined the military. And so I was hunting really hard before leaving for basic, and I was on my last day of the season that I could hunt. It was December 27th of 2013, and I was down to like my last 5 minutes of my season, and I looked behind me and like 6 deer come through at like 20 yards. This buck was the last one of them, and I was able to put my arrow right where I wanted. Found him. It was an awesome hunt, and that moment is just so important to me because that signified to me that it showed me that working hard and having a goal in mind, you can achieve that goal when you really just set that goal in your head and go for it. And even though I hunted completely wrong for him, the fact that I was able to still get him was really cool to me. And it was right before I went to basic, so I went to basic training at least with a little happiness in my head. And every time I look at this mount, I think about the first day that I got trail camera pictures of him, how excited I was, and to actually end up arrowing him was just awesome. So that's this buck, and I'm really proud of that one. So the next one is this European mount that I have back here. This is just a small 10-pointer that I shot in Minnesota in 2015. But what this European mount signifies to me is it was the first time I came up with a really good game plan. I had this little 90-acre piece, and I came up with a really solid game plan. I came up with how exactly I wanted to access the spot. I hung a stand. I went back there, sat, and on one of my first sits, I saw like 30-some deer. And this buck came through, and I just couldn't pass him up. I shot him, and then ended up being not the best shot. I actually gut shot this deer, and we tracked him till about 2 or 3 in the morning, couldn't find him. And then the next day, me and my buddy Tyler went back there, and we tracked him through. The track job itself was definitely a few miles. He didn't go that far, but that really sticks out in my memory as me and Tyler put in an incredible track job, and we were able to find him the next day at noon. And so it was just an incredible track job and a really cool buck that I'll always remember that day. And every time I turn around and look at that mount, I'm just immediately brought back to that, and it's a really cool experience. The next buck that I'm going to talk about is this one that I shot in 2016 in North Dakota. And this is one of the craziest hunts I've ever been on, and looking at that mount just honestly brings me smiles. This day that I was hunting, it was with the wind chill, I think in the -40 realm. It was the coldest weather I'd ever hunted in, and I had popped up this blind on the edge of this cut cornfield where it moved into a standing cornfield, and I'd actually just gone in to scout that day. But then when I came across how much sign there was, I was like, I have to hunt, and I popped up this blind. I wasn't entirely ready for how cold it was. I wasn't dressed properly for it being -40, but I ended up seeing around 70 deer that night, and this was the first buck that I ever got on film. Even though I didn't get the actual shot, I got him going down, and it was when I first started filming. And so there's just a whole plethora of memories that come back to me, and a smile comes on my face just thinking about it. And that was just a heck of a deer. The first time that I actually saw him, he was about 10 feet from me, and I was in a ground blind, and he just looked massive. I mean, he's a big buck, but he looked even bigger, and he was just so close to me, and it was so cool, and he ran off. And earlier that year I hit a buck but wasn't able to recover him, and so I was kind of down on myself, and this just really got my confidence back and kind of showed me that I could still do it. And yeah, looking at this old warrior is just really cool. I just love being able to look back and just think immediately back to that day. So we'll go on to the next one now. If you've been following the Whitetail DNA channel, you're probably familiar with this deer. I just got him back. This is the one that I shot this last October, and this was an incredible hunt, an incredible deer. And when I look at this mount, I just think about the plan that I put in place, because I'd hunted this property in years past, had gotten permission on it, and I was very careful with how I hunted, very careful with how I ran trail cameras. I had a very specific plan, and on the second sit I was able to arrow this buck, and it just shows that when you have a really solid game plan, you're able to make things work. And when you do that, it's just an unbelievable feeling. And so being able to look at this deer every day, I'm so blessed to be able to look at that deer and just kind of go back, and it solidifies that game plan. I mean, I've got another buck that I'm hunting on the same property this year, and I've got a very similar game plan. And I'm hoping what I was able to do with this buck, I'm going to be able to do with that one this year, and got my fingers crossed. And the last buck that I want to kind of talk about is the one that I got back most recently. This is my velvet buck that I shot in North Dakota last year. And this is like such a cool mount and such a cool memory. Just thinking back to that day, and I'd gotten really sick on that trip, and all those memories kind of come flooding back. I was holed up for a day and a half of our 4-day trip, and that really just sucked. And then being able to kind of come out of that sickness, get in the stand and shoot him the next day was just incredible. And he's my smallest shoulder mount, if you want to talk about size, but one of the cooler memories, because I mean, he's in full velvet, so just being able to touch his velvet, I had never been able to do that before I shot him, and so it's really cool being able to do. And thinking about this memory, I just think about my friendship with my really good buddy Tyler, who I spent a ton of time with, especially during hunting season, and him rushing to the stand to help me find him, and my other buddy Hunter out in North Dakota and helping recover it. And just like the camaraderie of hunting really just comes out in this deer to me. Super special deer and a super special memory. All right, and so those are all the mounts that I have. I didn't really talk about the dead head I have back there. That was something that I found while hunting, so I didn't shoot that deer, but still it was really cool. It was actually the day after that Tyler shot his big 180-inch deer out in North Dakota our first year hunting, so that was also a really cool memory. This video is the last thing that I'm trying to do is brag about the deer that I've shot. I've been very lucky, and I get to spend a lot of time hunting, a lot more than most, and so really this is not about to brag about my deer that I've shot, but what I want to the main point of this video is to get across is every single one of these mounts represents a memory to me, and a memory that will last my whole life. And sure, I could have that memory without the mount or with just a European mount, but to me, when I come in my office every day, because I work from home, and so I see these mounts around, and I'm so lucky, and I'm just flooded with all these memories. Every single one of those memories that I talked about, I get to relive every day, and that's so special to me. And some people understand it, and some don't, and some never will, and some will learn as time comes. But all that I'm trying to get across is that if you have the opportunity to get some mounts, if you ever shoot a deer, and it's not always just about the size of the deer. I have people ask me, well, how big does it have to be to mount it? Well, it's not about that. In my velvet buck, I still haven't scored him. I don't know if he'll be 120, but it doesn't matter. It's that mount sitting there, and I just am able to relive that memory every day. And that's really cool to me, and that's all I wanted to get across with this video. It's a little bit of a different video. Hopefully you liked it. If you enjoyed this, let me know if you like videos of this style. If not, you can also let me know. I'm always open to criticism. But that's what I got for this video. I just wanted to kind of go through my deer and show them to you and talk about the memories and why I find mounts so cool, to be honest. So with that, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button below, hit the subscribe button. If you really like it, share with a friend. Other than that, I'm going to be signing out. We got a lot of content coming soon, so I'll be seeing you in the next video.